we'll open up to questions.
Guys, how much did winning here last year in the championship game help you guys down the stretch?
Like you said, we knew we could do it. We've done it before. We did it twice last season, so I mean, they're a great team, though. We knew they'd hit a big shot they usually do at the end of the game, so we just wanted to make sure it wasn't a three and try not to give them any and ones or anything, stop the clock. And, we didn't make all our free throws, but we made enough.
How about for you? I mean, that was part of your stretch run last year.
I kind of think you try and forget about the past, because at any given night in the Patriot League, a team can come in your house and beat you. So we try to put that beside us and come out there and play with as much intensity as we can, get some stops in D, and we did. So kind of proud.
How much confidence did you guys have after getting that 15-point lead at such a hostile environment like this place?
Well, Coach always, everyone knows basketball is always spurts and teams go on zone runs, and we knew that they weren't going to just give up like that. That's not Bucknell basketball. So we try to just keep doing what we're doing, and they did come back and got it to one at halftime, and then from there each team went on a run. So you try not to get too involved and too mental about that big lead. American had a big lead on us as well. So
that's something we've been really stressing in practice is trying to come out strong from the gate and try to jump on teams a little bit. In the past, we've been lackadaisical when games start. So like you said, against American teams get leads on us, and it's a lot harder to fight back. It's possible, but it's harder. You saw Bucknell do it tonight. They came back and almost tied it at halftime. So we just like to try and get a lead early on and come out with intensity and energy on the defensive end. And that starts with BJ and Mackey and Ant playing great D on the perimeter.
You went down 7. What changed after that point when you were down 44-37?
I honestly don't remember being down 7. I never really paid attention to that. Just more getting stops, and that's pretty much that was always on my mind. So.
When we were down 7, we had a timeout, and the coaches were talking, and Mackey, myself, and some of the older guys pulled everyone in, and we were just like, hey, we can win this game. We just got to play defense. That's all it's going to take is play defense every possession. Everyone's got to believe you can win. Every one of us pointed at every guy and said, you just got to believe we can do it. Get stops, and we'll find a way to score. All of us can score. So that's kind of what happened. Mackey came up with some big stops. BJ had a big block shot. So it's just Muscala. Those guys are great players. So it's not an easy task trying to get stops against a team like that. So with a little bit of luck, definitely helped us out, and we came back from that deficit.
Holden, I'd like to ask you and then Coach to comment on this question. Last year, you won 3 in a row now. Last year, you guys took a beating from Bucknell down there, and things were looking a little grim. That wasn't one of your better nights, as I recall. You turned it around.
You're saying at home?
At home, yeah.
I won't call it a beating. I think we lost by 6 or something like that. It was a fairly close game, and it was within the last 2 minutes.
Fair, it's fair.
Okay.
But you've turned it around since then. It's a different look now. You've won 3 in a row after that one. What's happened?
What it is, it's a credit to our coaching. Our assistants and coaches have done a great job is to kind of figure out their game plan. They like to run a lot of ball screens and try to tease us apart a little bit. And Muscala and Woolman can shoot very well from the 15-foot range. So we worked on showing and getting back as quick as possible and trying to make them do other things like drive to the basket and trying to make plays instead of just let them sit there and catch and shoot open jumpers, which is kind of what happened at our place last year. They got a lot of easy jump shots. So we just kind of tried to change the game plan defensively a little bit, and it seemed to work.
Coach, you're right, that game wasn't a beating, but it was a game in which they were ahead, I think, just about the whole game, and you made several runs at them, and they answered every one of them. And I thought some heads were down at the press conference afterwards, but now you've won 3 in a row.
Well, I think in that game, it became apparent. We actually talked to our team about the amount of poise that Bucknell demonstrated in that particular loss in pressure situations. They seemed to have the poise during that time. It ultimately resulted in their win. Fortunately, we've been able to come forward with poise and with resiliency in a tough environment, tough circumstances, with a lot on the line, with a lot of people ultimately playing for this game. And our poise has ultimately risen as well. I think when we carry forward to this year's team, this year's team's faced adversity. They've shown resiliency, and they've shown tremendous togetherness. Even in an environment like tonight, where it would have been easy to feel a little bit down or perhaps take a step back after losing a pretty large lead, falling into a deficit, our guys have continued to demonstrate poise, resiliency, and togetherness, which are great characteristics for a team.
There was an old coach named John Wooden who used to say, be quick but don't hurry, don't be too rushed. And I actually made a note during the game that you guys, the guards, looked really calm even though you were doing everything quickly. It looked like poise. What makes poise? What gives you that?
I think it's definitely being aggressive. You can be aggressive and not have poise, but with our team and our chemistry, it's just like everyone is willing to give up the ball, and I mean that's what happened today. We're making drives for all the players, and being under control. And we know that Bucknell's defense is really good. So if you try and do anything out of control, it's going to turn into layups and layups and layups, and next thing you know, the lead's 15, 20. So you have to be poised. Like Coach said, you have to be poised in these type of games, but remain aggressive at the same time.
Coach Reed, about 3 weeks ago, you had a home game against Bryant. Didn't defend three-point well that night. Didn't really defend that well overall that night. But what have you learned since then? And tonight, obviously, and since then, you really shut down the three-point line on several of your games. Actually.
Yeah, we've been fortunate that despite a painful loss, and that Bryant game was very disappointing for our program, for our team members, I think there was a silver lining to it, in that we understood and had the chance to really value defense. We knew that we had lost that game because of our lack of defensive energy, intensity, and determination. Since that time, they've been able to translate that lesson and applied it moving forward. Sometimes that doesn't always work. You lose, you learn a lesson, you sustain it for a little while, you have to lose again, learn another lesson. But fortunately, because of some of the experience and the maturity that we have on our team, those things have now become lasting things that are carried forward into future games where it's almost building a blueprint for us to have success.
Ralph Willard used to always say it's easier to take away a big guy than a guard. Talk a little bit about your defensive strategy on Muscala and what you did. I know a lot of doubling on the ball screens to make it hard to get it to him, but
I don't know. At the end of the day, he's a terrific player. Still felt like he was very effective out there. I don't know if it's easy to take away a player like Mike Muscala because he has an interior presence. He has a perimeter presence with his ability to shoot and pass. And he also makes a defensive presence. He's a pretty complete player. Fortunately, we were able to get just enough key stops when we needed it. We tried to have a team approach to stopping him. I thought some of the people who came into the game, whether it's a Justin Goldsboro or even not natural matchups like a Holden Greiner, did a pretty good job. And then our guards were at least trying to be in the positions to provide the help and support that they needed.
You guys talked about chemistry. Has that had to start over when CJ left the floor, or was that a continuation of what?
I wouldn't say it started over. It was definitely a transition. Our game, like Coach said, our blueprint, our identity is a little different now. We're trying to grind teams out, get stops and exert defensive presence. But CJ is still there. He's around all the time. I don't know if you saw at halftime, he had a talk with me and said, just giving me tips, giving me pointers, things he would do in certain situations. So I definitely feel like he's out there with us, not in person, but in spirit. And I hear him. He's probably the one person, obviously besides Coach Reed, that I always hear when I'm in the game. I can always hear his voice. He's telling me what to do, things I need to do. When we got to get a stop, he's the first one to tell us in timeouts. And so I don't think we might have lost his scoring ability or his on-court presence, but he's there with us 100%. He's coming to practice. He's giving us tips. He's helping him and BJ. I've been really getting extra work in, so I definitely think the chemistry is the same. It's just the identity of the team might be a little different now.
Brett, when CJ went down, there would have been people that said unlikely you'd be able to do what you just did, but you got to be really happy with coming in here and doing this without him, and there must have been a progression where these guys became as poised as they are, even without their best players. I mean, it's kind of amazing.
Well, I'm pleased with the progress that we're making. I mean, we still have to remember that it's January 23rd, and there's a lot of basketball yet to be played. So we have to keep it within context. It was a good win against a very good opponent in a tough environment, and we continue to learn lessons about ourselves that hopefully can carry forward into future contests against other opponents. We know that if we defend well, that we put ourselves in a chance to have success in games and win. If we share the basketball, if we are resilient, if we have unity, it provides a foundation for us. Yes, I am pleased. We want to make sure that this isn't the highlight of our season either.
Did you have an overarching message for them on the 6th of January? Okay, now here's what we're gonna do?
No, because, one important decision that I ultimately made was we were building towards something, and we were building an identity, even with the style and system that we played, that we weren't going to now all of a sudden change direction and change course of action. That isn't what our program was about to begin with. CJ is a very gifted and talented player. We certainly think he's terrific. We miss him. However, we have a team full of very good players. And the reason we were able to be successful while he was healthy and with us was the fact that he trusted his teammates, he was unselfish, built a culture for unselfishness, and we had other players that ultimately could answer the call.